There's a starman waiting in the sky. He'd like to come and meet us, but he thinks he'd blow our minds. And I was rushed out the door. I want that for the record.
And for the record, I don't fucking care if I rushed you. Because, ladies and gentlemen, we are seeing Disney and Pixar's Lightyear.
So 3 years ago, we were pretty sure that Toy Story was done.
We had just so many...
3 years ago, we made a video where we talked about how heartbroken we were, about how wonderfully beautiful this the ending of Toy Story 4 was for us, and how we were how we didn't want any more Toy Story movies, and how we were incredibly optimistic for the 2 Pixar movies that were going to come out in theaters in that coming year.
And then we were going to... What complete dumbasses did we look like? But a year and a half ago at the Disney shareholders meeting, and I vividly remember finding out this information, Lightyear was announced, a spin-off of Toy Story.
Now, Lightyear is pretty much one of the more interesting fairs of Pixar. It's not in the sense that everything else Pixar has put out in the last 2 years hasn't been interesting, but in the sense that they're spinning off one of their most popular characters into their own franchise, basically.
Now, this was pitched from day one as the movie that Andy saw that made him want to buy a Buzz Lightyear toy. And because of that generational canon, it is the movie that could very well be considered the movie that made us who we are by creating Toy Story. Which to reiterate what we said in the Toy Story 4 review video, we saw 7 times in the theater. And all 7 of those times, little 2-year-old me especially wanted to see where Buzz Lightyear came from. We got tied over a little bit in the early 2000s with the cartoon show, but now Buzz Lightyear's getting a whole movie. So basically, I have waited 27 years for this movie.
Speaking of the cartoon show, put Buzz Lightyear stuck around on Disney Plus, you cowards. What? We can do that for stuff that other people would like anyway. Oh, speaking of which, what? Yeah, it's starting to spill over into non-Marvel related movies. Deal with it.
But there is some relation to Marvel, because taking the reins as the lead, as our title character is America's ass himself, Chris Evans.
Yes, and that was one of the things that they announced straight up with the Disney investor call, that Chris Evans was taking on the role of Buzz Lightyear. Something that has kind of took until now to raise any kind of stink about, because people apparently weren't paying attention enough to realize that Buzz Lightyear sounds an awful lot like Chris Evans and not at all like Tim Allen right now. To which the director had to put out a statement that says, and this is exactly what we thought we're thinking way back when they cast Chris Evans, that Tim Allen is the voice of the toy, Patrick Warburton is the voice of the character in the TV show, and Chris Evans is the voice of the guy in the movie.
Now, obviously, certain C-list sitcom stars seem to disagree. They are idiots.
Really castrated?
What the fuck is wrong with you?
What is up with it? Anyway, but the important thing is that Chris Evans is joining in to this. Chris Evans, who has by his own metric been a fan of animated movies for years, and is clearly very happy to be part of this one.
Even though his last animated film before this was, I think, the 2007 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie.
Anyway, though Chris Evans is not alone for the ride, joining him in the cast of Past is the likes of Uzo Aduba from Orange Is the New Black, Keke Palmer, and
who our generation will always know as True Jackson,
and of course fellow Marvel star Taika Waititi.
Yes, among many others.
Also director Peter Sound,
who has done more leading voice roles in Pixar movies than he's directed, but that will change next year.
Yeah, but anyway, here's the thing about it for people of our about this movie for people of our generation. Buzz Lightyear Star Command exists. It's this thing that's in our childhood, and they have not put it on Disney Plus yet. But also, this movie is not explicitly the same origin story with like a bunch of modernization over it that was seen in the pilot movie for that. Other than the female comedic foil, the lovable robot sidekick with an X in his name, and the timid guy who probably should not be fighting anyone.
No, but those are just standard sci-fi character archetypes anyway, so...
Oh, and also the constant use of the number 42, but that's probably more of a Douglas Adams reference than a reference to Buzz Lightyear Star Command.
Yes, but especially since the Buzz Lightyear Star Command was a reference to Douglas Adams. But what's important is that this is a movie that has been a long in the waiting, and the man helming this, Angus MacLean, has been a huge advocate for Buzz for pretty much his entire time at Pixar. Back when they were making Toy Story 2, he was apparently the animator who knew Buzz's movements and behavior more than almost any other person working at Pixar. He even directed the opening CG scene for the direct-to-video pilot for Buzz Lightyear Star Command, and also directed the short Small Fry that I believe played before Muppets 2011.
And also he was but more recently he was the co-director of Finding Dory. But speaking of Finding Dory, because we're dealing with Buzz Lightyear's lore, we need to play with Buzz's arch nemesis, the evil Emperor Zurg. But who should play him? Andrew Stan's too busy writing actual dialogue for the real Darth Vader. Yeah, look it up. And Wayne Knight's probably a little too comedic for what they're going for. So who do we have to do that? Hey, how about we get James Brolin to join his son Josh in the exclusive club of giant purple aliens that got their asses whooped by Chris Evans.
Yeah. Now all we need to do is wait for Josh Brolin's son and his son to take on the role of a purple alien that fights Chris Hemsworth, and they'll have 3 generations of Brolin men and fighting that got to get their asses kicked by one guy in movies.
But all in all, and also this is the first Pixar movie to come out in theaters since Onward 2 years ago.
Over 2 years ago, back in March of 2020, which we didn't realize was going to be our last time in a theater for a while, but now we're going to a theater to see a Pixar movie, but not just any Pixar movie, my most anticipated movie of my entire life.
And I'm
gonna be a dick and just to speak for myself this time around.
And I think the biggest question would be, why this one instead of like Turning Red or Luca or something like that? And the answer I've got is 2 theories. One, this is built off of the back of one of Pixar's most profitable franchises to date. So obviously they think that if any Pixar movie is going to get people in the theater, it's going to be this one of one of their most profitable characters from one of their most profitable franchises. And number 2, the Marvel movies have been doing fantastically in theaters since they started coming out in the middle of the pandemic, and
at least once they got rid of the Premier Access thing with just Black Widow, with just doing that for Black Widow. And
this movie is and judging by the movie's cast and overall tone, it appears that this movie is attempting to grab the Marvel audience, which means that they feel like they would be comfortable enough to do such a thing. And once again, both theories are incredibly valid.
Yes.
I really hope that this means that Pixar won't just be shunted off to Disney Plus land, even though the movies that they put on Disney Plus exclusively were really good. Soul was great. Luca was great. Turning Red was fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. So going to see and especially now but now it's great to have Pixar back in a theater to see it on the biggest screen possible.
And since we're going to a much later showing than we normally would, maybe we won't get in a theater with a bunch of kids.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But it's a thing of so much. This is just a movie that we've been anticipating just because of the fact that Buzz is the reason we like what we like. He was the gateway into all of our interests of sci-fi and toy and superheroes and toys, and he was just that gateway to all of it for us.
And for this character to get a completely new story to exist in, just kind of feels nice.
It feels, especially since again we were obsessed with the Saturday morning cartoon. Everybody at school knew we were obsessed. We were in elementary school, knew we were obsessed with this cartoon.
We did not hide it, and the fact that Lightyear is now we've got a whole new Buzz Lightyear story to play with, to watch. It's so nice.
Yep. So that's all we should probably talk about because we gotta get in there now.
Yep. So we will see you guys after the jump. Now that we're out of that was pretty much exactly what you would hope for. It's just a fun sci-fi movie.
Yeah, was a movie worth waiting for.
It wasn't it's not groundbreaking. It's not among Pixar's best. It's probably not even the best of the Toy Story movies, but for what it wants to be, which is a fun sci-fi movie, it pretty much hits all the right buttons.
It's a Buzz Lightyear movie that perfectly encapsulates what a Buzz Lightyear movie should always have been.
It creates this arc for Buzz. It explains a lot of the stuff of where the stuff from the character in Toy Story and thus the toy would come from. And let's go deeper into it. Chris Evans is very good as Buzz Lightyear. He takes a lot of the same mannerisms that Alan and Warburton did before him, and makes it and takes him on a very similar arc to all the stuff, everything we've seen Buzz on before.
We have an amazing, very interesting villain in James Brolin as Zurg. I mean, he was he played a very small part in the movie, but
the point of it is that Zurg actually gets something in this, more than you would expect, and it's nice that they managed to change things up a little bit. In the Toy Story movies before this, Zurg was basically just Darth Vader. That was what they were going for. Or literally when Buzz was describing his backstory in the first Toy Story, he was describing the plot of Star Wars.
Yeah, the moment where he's under the car and talking about his mission, and so we have this new obviously we have this new band of characters behind him with the character of Izzy played by Keke Palmer and Mo played by Taika Waititi, who are both have their hilarious moments, but also a lot of heart to them.
Like, Socks and Mo are the biggest comedic parts in here because of things like because of just the way things like Taika Waititi. It's almost impossible to put Taika Waititi in any movie and not make him funny, and also just the fact that Peter Sohn is perfectly likable as Socks. One thing I liked in particular was his repeated line, was his particular reading on one line that I won't spoil because it's one of the funniest jokes in the movie, but it's still a movie that actually gets called back to, but it's still great that but they're both still very funny characters.
Yeah, and Angus MacLane did a fantastic job with this. It doesn't look or feel like a Pixar movie in the and I mean that as a good way. In a good way, the action is it's pretty much the first time Pixar's ever made anything this close to an actual action movie. So the action is shot incredibly well. There's a wonder at the beginning. There's a freaking wonder at the beginning of the movie that kind of melts your brain at how good it is.
And it's just kind of one of the as an action movie, one thing is that it's supposed to be a movie made in 1995 in universe, but it kind of doesn't look like a movie from 1995.
Yeah, because it does. This is supposed to be a movie that's from 1995, but
it didn't even mention the 1993 snowstorm blizzard of Halloween.
Yeah, it didn't mention it. Yeah, how are we supposed to immerse ourselves in this if it doesn't mention anything that happened in 1995? What the fuck, Pixar?
How are we? You did it again! You did it again! Right after Turning Red's biggest blunder, you made...
How did you not mention... How the fuck could you not mention Columbine, Pixar?
Anyway.
Now that we've gotten that completely... completely irrelevant...
No longer that funny joke out of the way.
No, we're going to reference that. No, but none of the people actually watching this video probably even get anymore because it happened so many months ago and nobody gives a shit.
But yeah, one of the things that it's not exactly a problem because it's made for now. But one of the things is that this movie, literally from the get-go, says this movie is supposed to be a thing from 1995, and it's very much a modern action movie. I'm not going to count that as points against it because it's for a modern action movie. It's a pretty good modern action movie.
It even has some pretty effective twists and turns. It does not take exactly it's not exactly a formulaic movie, which is it does take. There is kind of a formula to it, but it has its adequate twists. And one point I have against it is that the plot kind of has to move a little faster because this is still a shorter film at less than 2 hours.
Yeah, they need to. Yeah, the thing is, they need to, because of where the character of Buzz comes from. We can get in Toy Story. We could get this grab bag of sci-fi cliches to create Buzz because that would be the easiest way to come back around. Because that would be the easiest way to make it clear. Okay, this is a thing for this toy. This is a thing for this toy. This is a thing for this toy. This is. But with this, they need to actually build the world that this toy would have taken stuff from. It's like if you were making a movie based on the video game adaptation of a movie, where you have to go backwards and to figure out where in the movie would this particular piece of the video game come from.
Yeah. So, in a way, it kind of bogs the movie down a little bit with the fact that they have to move the plot. Really, the width of the plot, they have to move a little faster than probably would be. We don't get to spend a lot of time with certain characters at the beginning of the movie.
But in certain other areas, it does actually. A lack of time with certain characters does build into the major theme of the movie, and that kind of helps. And the characters we do spend time with do create an emotional attachment in a sense.
Yeah. The character of Alicia Hawthorne, for instance, played by Uzo Aduba, is actually a very emotionally relevant character to the entire story, despite what little amount she is in the movie. And yeah, it's just kind of amazing to have a character like this is in the movie who spends so little time in it and yet makes a big impact. Her presence is felt throughout the entire rest of the movie, not just because of the character of Izzy being her granddaughter, but because of the fact that her existence, her relationship to Buzz,
plays very much into how Buzz treats every other character in the movie.
Yeah. Also, anytime Ben Shapiro's pissed off about something, I am 100% a hype camper. So fuck you, Benny boy.
Yep. And Michael Giacchino perfectly encapsulates the standard sci-fi movie score because it's Michael Giacchino. Though, am I the only one who listened to that particular leitmotif that's basically Buzz's theme in this movie and thought it's no big deal?
Nobody watching this video will get that, but if you do, we love you.
Yeah, the animation is fantastic, as we were saying before. The character models are pretty on. Pixar's pretty much at that point where they can make realistic-looking humans, but they also need to. But they can't make. But it's also just cartoony enough that you remember that it's an animated movie when you're looking at it.
Even though the producer has come out and said that this was supposed to be a live-action movie in the Toy Story universe.
Yeah, but it's in the Toy Story universe.
Yeah, so it is animated. But still, yes, it still is very realistic stuff with the obviously caricature kind of style humans, because nobody wants to see a humanoid-looking human in an animated movie.
And I mean, the way that they made this more realistic, they made this look completely different from the toy. Made it close enough, but you could still see the elements of the like Buzz's design as a human makes it clear here what elements eventually went into the toy. He's got the dimple, he's got the facial structure.
There's elements of it. We can't really spoil much, but it's kind of interesting. But so we won't exactly point out the irony of the fact that there are now toys for Lightyear, for the movie Lightyear, based on the toy from Toy Story, that none of the toys actually look like Buzz Lightyear from Toy Story.
Yeah, they're because most of them are Buzz in this flight suit that he wears at the beginning, in this flight suit that he's wearing at the beginning of the movie, or various other variations on the original suit.
Yes.
They didn't like read it. They didn't like just use this as an excuse to like remarket the old Toy Story toys that they had left over from Toy Story 4, or at least not that I haven't been paying much attention to.
Yeah.
Also, they'll be Hornets for me. They'll always be Hornets to me.
Yeah.
I know they're called Cyclops. I've seen the toys. I know they're called Cyclopses in this movie. They'll always be Hornets to me.
Yes. Again, Buzz Lightyear Starkman, Disney Plus. Do it, Disney.
Do it. Do it.
Anyway,
I think that's it for right now. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and don't forget to tune in next time when we go from Dad Bod to God Bod. Bye.